Hello then, thank you for staying with us right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. This is World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. First off, the top stories. Governor Alia blames non-cooperation of some major APC stakeholders for crisis in Benue. Also, state in Benue declares emergency and obviously public holiday on the president's visit on June 18. In a very recent development, CDS Musa proposes vigilante training in Benue State. Also, push to replace Shetima intensifies as 3 northern APC governors debate VP's fate. Also, lawmakers hold Tinubu's attempt to appoint new Rivers Electoral Commission chair. Also, court orders substituted service on INEC chairman over contempt charge. And in a very recent development, Okpebolo vows to demolish houses, property on waterways in Benin City. And on stories outside the shores of Nigeria, Iranians describe fear and sadness over Trump evacuation warning. Details now. All right, thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins with the governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Alia, disclosing that there are some political undertones to the insecurity ravaging communities in the state. Speaking today during a program titled Focus Nigeria, which was aired on a Monitor television program, Governor Alia said the non-cooperation of some major stakeholders as well as the disunity within the All Progressives Congress in Benue are responsible for some of the challenges confronting the state. Well, Benue State, as you do know, has been on the national stage in recent days following the massacre of several innocent residents and destruction of properties by terrorists and bandits operating in the state. Speaking against the backdrop of the crisis rocking the state, the governor said some people are aggrieved because they are not in the fold where things are happening. Alia also revealed that President Tinubu has personally intervened and urged party leaders in Benue to put aside their differences and work together in the interest of peace and development. He added that with the help of the federal government, particularly in the intelligence gathering, the state is making headway in tracking down the attackers. He also disclosed that we're talking about the bandits and the terrorists who have come to a very mystifying frame of guerrilla warfare. They come, hit and go back, so we cannot identify them, end quote. And still in Benue, the government there has declared Wednesday, June 18, 2025, a public holiday in honor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's visit to the state. The decision was announced in a statement issued by the Secretary to the State Government, Saramun Deborah Abe, and was made available to correspondents today. President Tinubu is expected to embark on a one-day condolence visit to commiserate with the government and people of Benue State following the recent wave of deadly attacks that claimed dozens of lives and displaced thousands. The presidency had earlier confirmed that the president would cut short his engagements to be physically present in Benue, a move described as both significant and symbolic amid mounting national outrage and international concerns over the violence. While the state government declared a work-free day, it clarified that the directive excludes essential service workers, including medical personnel, security operatives, and banking staff. Now, amid escalating violence and mass killings in Benue State and other parts of the country, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has called for the immediate training of credible youth across the state to serve as vigilantes under military supervision as part of efforts to protect local communities from terrorist attacks. Musa made this disclosure today during a strategic meeting with the traditional rulers in Makurdi, the state capital, while Musa urged traditional rulers to take responsibility of exposing criminal elements within their domain, warning that the military would not tolerate acts of sabotage or internal compromise. He revealed plans to overhaul the military's operational strategy in Benue and neighboring states, stressing the importance of community collaboration in restoring peace. The CDS and Inspector General of Police Kaide Igbokwe on Monday toured the worst-hit communities and ordered an immediate review of security strategies. Commanders in neighboring Nasarawa State were also directed to act decisively against any form of terror threat spilling into Benue. Musa, while speaking during the visit, said, "We're tired of innocent souls being killed and we're here to ensure that we address such. I'll be going to see my commanders and we have to change our strategy. We need everybody to be part of it. We understand that even before now, we used to have, even within us, people that compromise and give information because going around, you see the way some of the burnings were made. They were deliberately targeted, which means they were insiders. And so I have discussed with the communities, the traditional rulers, with the clergy to work for us and to work united." Now, the Senate has temporarily halted President Bola Tinubu's nomination of Michael Igbokwe as chairman of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, citing constitutional concerns over his eligibility. Igbokwe, a retired official of the Independent National Electoral Commission, appeared before the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Emergency Rule in Rivers State for screening on Tuesday. During the session, lawmakers raised concerns about his state of origin, questioning whether a non-indigent could legally head a state electoral body. Igbokwe confirmed he is a native of Cross River State, but argued that his non-indigent status was not a disqualifying factor. Also, he pledged to uphold the few, or rather the law, adhere to electoral timelines, and ensure broad stakeholder engagement in the state's electoral process. He also emphasized his extensive electoral experience, noting that he had served for 35 years at INEC, conducted multiple elections, maintained a record of integrity and adherence to due process. Despite acknowledging Igbokwe's professionalism qualifications, the Senate committee stressed the importance of verifying the legal basis for his appointment. Senators insisted that clarity was needed to ensure the nomination did not conflict with constitutional or state-level and legal stipulations. This development is coming amidst ongoing political tension in Rivers State following a public fallout between Governor Sim Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. The political crisis led to the suspension of Governor Fubara for 6 months and the installation of an administrator, Igbokwe Ekwe Ibas, across Riverian under an emergency rule arrangement. President Tinubu submitted Ekwe's name along with 6 others for confirmation on Democracy Day last Thursday. Now, fresh details have emerged on the fracas that marred the All Progressives Congress North-East Zonal Consultative Meeting in Gombe State on Sunday. Insider sources have revealed growing division over the future of Vice President Kashim Shettima ahead of the 2027 presidential election. The conflict, which led to chaos during the event, is now being linked to power struggles within the zone, particularly amongst governors and stakeholders vying for influence over who should be President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's running mate in the next election. According to credible party sources, some APC governors and power brokers from the Northeast have quietly opposed Shettima's return on the 2027 ticket. The opposition is reportedly based on concerns over the controversial Muslim formula and what they describe as Shettima's lack of political vibrancy. In a very recent development too, considering the alternatives being touted as former Speaker Yakubu Dogara and Gombe State Governor Inuwa Yahaya, they are believed to have silent backing from key northern blocs. Also, revelations revealed that the governors of Yobe, Gombe and Borno, the 3 APC-controlled states in the zone, failed to agree on a unified position during a series of behind-the-scenes meetings before the Gombe event. The plan was to present a unified front endorsing both Tinubu and Shettima for a second term, but that effort fell apart during the consultative session. Now, due to the situation between Iran, depots have hiked the pump prices of premium motor spirit after the escalating tension in the Middle East jacked up the prices of crude oil. The rise was also linked to a strike by tanker drivers along the Lekki-Epe corridor in Lagos. This came as the president of Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Festus Usifo, accused oil marketers of exploiting Nigerians through inflated petrol prices, insisting that the current pump price of PMS should range between 700 and 750 naira per litre. Well, according to petroleumprice.ng, the Dangote Petroleum Refiner's petrol price rose from 825 naira to 840 naira on Monday. Reynolds' price surged by 50 naira from 850 naira to 900 naira per litre. It was also reported that Finefield and Mainland jerked their ex-depot prices to 930 naira and 920 naira, adding 51 naira and 63 naira respectively. As of Monday, Sigmund was selling at 920 naira per litre. Matrix Worries price was 910 naira per litre. Nipco jumped to 895 naira from 827 naira last week, while Aito sold petrol at the rate of 840 naira as shown by petroleumprice.ng. Now, A federal high court sitting in Abuja has granted an ex parte order for substituted service of Form 48, a notice of contempt proceedings on the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmood Yakubu. The ruling delivered on Tuesday by Justice Obiora Ewatu followed an ex parte motion filed by the National Rescue Mission alleging that INEC and its chairman disobeyed a valid court order issued earlier this year. The NRM, through its legal team led by Mr. Oladimeji Ekemba, told the court that INEC had failed to comply with the judgment delivered on March 5, 2025, which directed the Commission to recognize the outcome of the party's emergency national convention held on January 17. The convention had produced a new leadership for the party, led by Chief Edozie Njoku, to correct what the party described as lopsidedness in its National Executive Committee. The NRM, in a supporting affidavit deposed to by Mr. Adebayo Wasiu, said efforts to personally serve Professor Mahmood Yakubu had proved futile due to strict security protocols at the INEC headquarters. The party urged the court to approve substituted service by allowing the contempt charge to be handed over to any INEC staff at the Commission's headquarters located at Plot 430 Zambezi Crescent, Maitama, Abuja. Justice Egwatu, after hearing the application, granted the request and ordered that the Form 48 be served through substituted means. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here in Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We're heading to a news analysis segment where I'll be having a conversation with a colleague and a critical mind or person of thought who will give insight into some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. Do kindly stay with us. Welcome back. You're still listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. I am currently right here in the studio with Jerry Akbaliohai. He's a presenter with Voice of the People television, also a person of thought and critically minded. We'll be having some conversations based on some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. Jerry Akbaliohai, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, but not fine with the report coming out from Benue.
That's your state of origin, right? That's where you come from?
I'm from Edo State.
Edo
actually.
State, okay. So, you share boundaries with them?
No, very far off. A language are different, a lot of things are different.
You could see with what happened at Uromi, we've not heard of such incidents along that axis for a while after that particular incident. Now, as it stands, the Chief of Defense Staff is telling us that there are insider information. The attack that recently happened was coordinated. For example, while the few security operatives were at the other side, fighting off the invaders, they came through another route. They targeted certain places where they know these people converge. So there are some stores that they went to sleep because they don't go and stay in their homes. They've been afraid because of the incessant attacks. So they don't go to the house. They stay together. And it was targeted. So it was like somebody provided information that if you want to hit your mark, there are strategic locations where you can see these individuals, and that was precisely what happened. They were taken unawares. So while one group was somewhere constituting mayhem and the security operatives were trying to defend, there was another set somewhere else. Now, tomorrow has been declared a public holiday because of the president's visit. Another thing the Chief of Defense Staff said was that they were going to be training the locals, and that he said that the disunity in the state is too much. Now, Governor Hyacinth Alia has come out to say categorically that politicians are the ones responsible for the imbroglio in the state. According to him, he said there is a political undertone to the insecurity ravaging the state. And he also said that the non-cooperation of major stakeholders as well as the disunity within the APC in Benue are responsible for some of the challenges confronting the state. Now, remember that there was a time a lawmaker came out to publicly complain that Governor Hyacinth Alia is not playing the politics well, that he wants to do everything alone, he's not carrying them along, and so that is why this insecurity is going on. So if this disunity is amongst them, is it categorically telling us that some of these politicians are sponsoring the killings deliberately to undermine his administration? That's one. Two, is it possible that these are retaliatory attacks because they want to suppress the governor, possibly to do his bidding? And if these are lawmakers within Benue State, you mean that they do not mind their people dying just because of political ambitions?
Yeah, the issue of Benue has multiple sides because it looks like at the end of the day, the citizens of Benue are the ones that fall prey
Exactly.
to whatever antics criminals and non-state actors will want to take into cognizance. Because what would be your reason for taking innocent lives? I saw a video where 7 children were killed,
An entire
burnt.
family.
Yeah. And I also saw a video where a man was saying 20 members of his family were all caught in the killings. So, how does someone who is a politician want to interpret that he has a grudge with the governor? That is why he sponsored non-state actors to take the lives of those children. It's barbaric. It's the height of wickedness. This is no longer war, because when you're fighting a war, you're fighting two people are fighting. At least there should be an equal measure of strength. Then you cannot test yourself. But when you're now going against children, that means you have gone overboard. You have left every sense of humanity aside. So we're now saying children are not collateral damage. People can now you're erasing the future of the Benue people. But when I've spoken to some people who are from Benue, and I got to another side of the story that actually that these people are also part of the Benue community, in the sense that they integrate into the community, they married their daughters, and along the line they had children, but those children are still from the headers community. But along the line, they are now fighting for kingship position. They now say, since we are part of this community, we have now possessed this side of the land, we should also take
You have a major stake.
take political roles. They're even having ambition that the next governor should also come from there.
that.
So this is a tussle, talking about tussle for power, tussle for land, and so on and so forth. So even the Benue people are not coming out to tell us the full truth. Because at the end of the day, you find out that they're just some bite of truth of what is really the problem. And some of Benue people believe that their elite have sold them out, because they say that their leaders will sell the lands to these people and tell them, if these people refuse to leave, go ahead and attack them. I've already sold it to you. It's now for you to claim it. I've taken the money already.
You think the traditional leaders are also complicit in this?
Because are
2 weeks before this massive massacre, the traditional leaders gave them 7 days to leave their land. That's what they said. They said they don't want any more. They don't want to have anything to do anymore with the headers. They told all of them to leave.
It's easier said than done.
Well, that was a command they gave. And after that instruction was given, we started seeing incessant attacks. Not in this large scale anyways, but we were getting reports that the social persons were killed. But the thing is, the big question is, why is the reaction now? When those attacks were happening, the governor was quiet. He never said anything until I think Nigerians pressure him, and especially his people say, Governor Aliyah, what agreement did you have with those people? What did you sign? Why are you quiet? Why do you seem spineless? Why are you waiting for the federal government to prefer a solution to you or for you? Why not address the situation? Why not tell us something? And he was still mute. And it was after then he came out to say, okay, based on certain investigation, that they have found that politicians in Abuja are responsible for what was going on in Benue. Then he also said that a judicial panel has been set up. Now, immediately he made that statement as to the judicial panel being set up to investigate what was going on. The next thing, we saw the Secretary of the Government of the Federation saying that that's not true, telling us that if indeed there are politicians, he should name names. So it was like what he was saying was in contrast with what the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who is close to the president, is actually saying.
Do you know what the Benue people are suffering from? They elected a governor who knows nothing about politics. Because
You sure he was elected?
Yeah, okay, let me say he was not elected, but he's now the
I'm
governor.
just asking.
No, let me.
Because sometimes we
whether
have
they like
persons
it
who
or
are not
not.
really the people's choice.
Yeah, even though you are not the people's choice, to an extent, some people will still tolerate you. And still, at least people were still happy that a Reverend Father is now the governor, things are going to change. Governor Alia is actually a trained Reverend Father by profession.
Okay.
So, what is his political acumen? Because politics is more than just winning elections. It now depends on who you know within the grassroots. And maybe he wants to run the governor's office more like a church, where the Reverend Father is all in all. He's the godfather, he's the head of the church. Everybody passes through him to get one permission or get anything done. That is not how politics is run. And unfortunately, people's lives have been used to checkmate the governor and cut him to size. And I've seen various State House Assembly members said they've called him for security meetings, but he's refused to carry them along. And no governor can secure the lives of his people without involving the elites, because at the end of the day, those elites are still going to be those who will talk to the foot soldiers, because there's a limit to where the governor can get to. And the governor has proven that he does not have the capacity. With all due respect to Governor Alia, he has proven that he's not the man to take Benue out of this problem. And I'm still surprised that the president, as at this time, has not declared the state of emergency in Benue State. So that, okay, yeah, it's something similar to what happened between the godfather and the godson in River State, that just one pipeline that was obstructed and the state of emergency was declared. So what is stopping? Because if the political apparatus in Benue State are at war and using the people as collateral damage, so we are saying pipelines are more valuable than human lives, than children. So how many lives are going to be lost before the president will declare state of emergency? I'm even surprised that they are declaring a public holiday because the president is visiting. What I'm supposed to have heard by now is the president doing a national broadcast and declaring state of emergency. Governor, step aside. Let's have a military state administrator. All the political jargons and whatever is going on, everybody step aside. Well, we are now in charge. Let there be stability. Then we can now bring everybody back to the table and discuss.
Nigerians have been asking that, okay, why can't the youth in the communities resort to self-help and defend themselves? I mean, you've heard the DSS boss Adiola Ajayi tell us the same thing. Nigerians, critics all alike say the same thing. Security advisors also say the same thing, because obviously it seems like the defense cannot help. But Governor Lear is saying that he doesn't believe in self-help. He doesn't believe in that self-defense. Meanwhile, the chief of defense staff is actually suggesting defense training. Let's listen to Governor Hyacinth Lear briefly.
Harry. And I think that would make some very good common sense. But where you have people who just decide to wake up because of sentiments and emotions that are attached, to what is happening with us and within us, I think we'll be rendering ourselves a bit more vulnerable. So I wouldn't advocate for self-defense. I would encourage us all to keep calling for community policing because it's the only way, it's the only people from within the state and the local government who would understand what is going on with them. I just come to think of it. Before now, here in the States.
All right, so that's him. What would you suggest? Would you believe that that reasoning is adequate?
The governor is just speaking English. That doesn't go anywhere. He's not even showing empathy. He's still being official, because it looks like he's not even moved. I even saw a video of when he was making a call with the president. He was still calm. He doesn't really understand the situation. He doesn't understand what leadership means. You need to lead by example for others to follow. He's not leading the state. He's just answering a governor, and he's not showing leadership. He's not showing that there's any urgency. Imagine in the midst of a crisis like this, you are telling people about state police. We all know the state police issue has been on and on for years, and nothing has been done about it. Who is going to engineer state police within 24 hours? Because when those people know that the governor who's in charge is not doing the right thing, there's no leadership, this will give those guys balls to come back and even do worse. Because this Benue issue even started more recently again, not like it has not been happening before. It happened when the president was in France. And we all know how lip service was played along the line. Also, these guys would have, they monitor the news, they see what happens.
Obviously.
And when they get information like nothing was done, this will embolden them. That means we're having 200 today. What happens tomorrow? They come for 1,000 people. So that means these guys are sitting
It's
ducks.
more than if you calculate previous killings. You
No,
remember that
most of them
throughout
are
last week,
undocumented.
it's been consistent.
Yeah.
Two days interval. We're hearing these killings, and everywhere was just smooth, and everyone was like, "Have we gotten so used to killing that nobody thinks of any executive condemning this? No sporadic action." The last time we had the chief of army staff rather was actually there, but he didn't spend up to a minute or
Imagine,
so. That's what we heard.
This is not even Gaza. This is not Israel, Palestine, and we're losing this number of people. We're not even talking about missile attack. Do you know what it takes for somebody to use a gun and machete and kill 10 people?
It's terrible.
You know, it takes time to even take a soul. Then now you are now going as far as killing 200 people within one night. You know the amount of time they would have taken. We are talking about face-to-face warfare. And we're losing this amount of people. And the president, you know, I even saw a video where even some bandits were seen with military wearing uniform people
Military fatigue.
in their midst. So a lot of things are flying on social media, meaning to ask questions. Okay, you are asking, even these people will now know that they cannot even rely on the security operatives.
Obviously.
That's how dangerous and even more deadly it is. If the Benue people cannot wake up and sit among themselves and have a conversation and say they should protect themselves, even if it is cutlass you have to protect yourself, and they don't do anything about it, they continue to be sitting ducks because
Obviously.
the politicians are not going to help them. Because in the middle of the night, if an armed robber comes to attack you and you're waiting for the police to come first before you apply any form of defending yourself, you're already putting yourself in a position where
That's very true.
yeah, it's just like you're putting yourself in a position where you're more like the animal waiting to be hunted. People are being hunted like animals. I never thought that there will be a day where Nigerians' death will now look like it's an everyday affair.
Like it's a normal way of life.
Yeah,
It's an expectation. So when you hear the news, there's no chill, there's no goosebumps, there's no cold. You know, we've gotten so used to that kind of information via airwaves. You're speaking like these human beings are animals that they used for Ilea. All right. So I'm sure you know Joe Igbokwe. He called out the Igbos. He said that they are hypocrites everywhere. That from 2015 till date, Igbos have been killing Igbos and burning their homes. He says that meanwhile, the Igbos kept mute over that. Now that these people are shedding more tears than the people of Benue shouting up and down, calling the Igbos yeah people. So he said that the Igbos are being hypocritical, that in their regions they kill themselves without recourse, put the heads of certain persons on a pike over discretionary reasons that nobody can actually understand or put any fingerprint on. And now that the situation in Benue is occurring, it feels like they are milking it for certain reasons. Some people feel they're just over politicizing it. So how would you react to this in this respect? Because I mean, I have seen a lot of young persons call out the menace going on in the southeast, specifically in Imo State and Enugu State. In fact, yesterday we talked about what was going on in Enugu State. In Enugu State now, they've been able to recover about more than 12 dead bodies, you know, and initially there were talks that these killings were ongoing, but the state government was keeping it under wraps, not wanting to escalate it or make it known that this is what was going on, possibly create a scenario or a perception that there is sanity and safety. Meanwhile, in Imo State, the governor there controls the state from Abuja, and a lot of communities are deserted right now. No investment opportunities, businesses have closed down. The young persons have had to leave the state to look for other places they would consider greener pastures because there is no economic activity unless in very certain areas. Then if you even talk about having to locate there or even move there or travel there, you have all those militant checkpoints across and all the several extortions ongoing. So thinking of going through that stress, a lot of persons don't even bother converging or conveying themselves to that particular region. But what would you say in reaction to what Igbokwe is saying?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty disappointed in the person Igbokwe calls himself because I think he's from the southeast.
Yeah, he's from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. It's not like I don't know he's from the southeast. You know, there's this saying that when the child behaves a certain way, that child is treated like an outcast. I think maybe there should be a ceremony where the southeasterners would declare him an outcast, because each and every time he has proven that he is not speaking in the well-being of where he's from because of his meal ticket. And any man that sells his people for a pot of porridge, just like Esau did, is more like the Esau in the Bible, which is in the life we are witnessing. I don't want to take him as a serious person, because when something bad happens, I think morality has been thrown out the window in Nigeria. In the sense that when something bad happens and people talks about it, everybody wants to kill the messenger and forget to treat the message. That is why we see our youth these days, when they do something wrong, leave him, is doing what his mates are doing. But does that mean that what he's doing is right? Joe Igbokwe has betrayed every sense of people thinking he's a sane person. Because how dare you? People are talking about human lives that have been lost. Then you're bringing scenarios that does not even correlate.
But let's look at issues objectively. Let's try to look at issues objectively, regardless of the speculation and perception of stomach infrastructure, or possibly he's looking for appointment from the current government, and you want to throw your people under the bus so you could seem like you are detribalized and you're being truthful and that you're actually in support of whatever good initiatives the administration is all about. But considering what is going on, the killings in the Southeast did not start off today. We heard about unknown gunmen. From then, we heard that they were Simon Ekpa boys. Later, they said it was ESN. There are different names and titles, so persons who they consider. So the thing is, the Southeast governors have been quiet over the insecurity in the Southeast. Complaints have been coming from the fact that it is the federal government of Nigeria that is causing what is going on in the Southeast. The fact that there is no economic viability there is caused by the federal government, so that region can remain redundant or commercially inactive. Then you have the military extortion along the expressway that have been calls on several occasions. But we haven't heard any of the governors call out the federal government concerning the several military checkpoints and all the extortions ongoing there. So if you have the Southeast leaders themselves who are supposedly placid, dormant, unreactive, and also not complaining about the economic redundancy in some regions there, what do you now want the people to do?
What I've studied as far as insecurity in Nigeria is concerned is that most especially when things go overboard, it mostly has to do with disunity among the people.
Exactly. Okay.
And the enemy cannot attack you when there's no insider who's giving them information.
Okay.
Because the problem that is happening with the Southeast, for instance, it started with even the people themselves inviting trouble. Because, now you're fighting for a struggle. This is the collateral damage of fighting for self-determination. And non-state actors have taken it as an opportunity to cause mayhem and so on and so forth.
Sure.
If the Southeasterners speak to themselves, because I've seen countries fight for self-determination, even from Britain, of course, doing that the right way legally, doesn't have to go to collateral damage and giving the enemy an opportunity to come into your community and cause mayhem. That's what's even happening in Benue and some other states. Even most recently, it happened in my own local government, where it was discovered that even the Oba, the king, was even involved in the headsmen kidnapping and killing our indigents, until it was nipped in the bud, where it got to a level, when the people united and said, no, this has to stop. And somehow investigation went on, and it was discovered that it was the king who was even involved. So at the end of the day, you find out that no matter how bad insecurity is happening, if the people within that community doesn't allow it, it will not boomerang to an extent where it will now be out of control. No matter what, individuals within the community in the Southeast are involved in the problems that still happen in the Southeast.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why Joe Igbokwe is calling out and saying, okay, those who are criticizing the administration of the day, those who are calling out the president and saying he's inadequate, he's not fit to be a president, they're calling for his impeachment or resignation, that why have they not done what you call an introspection? It's not like your region, when it comes to security, is safe. I mean, if it comes to insecurity there, you already know what is going on in that particular axis, and so why are you not calling that out?
What has Igbokwe done himself?
That's
why is he not calling out? Why is he not naming names?
Well, that's the thing.
Is it not part of the Southeast? Why is he waiting for some others to do that?
But then I mean, let's just say right now he doesn't have any political appointment, so he's just like any citizen. But let's look at the House of Rep members in the states. why they're not calling out the atrocities going on in their community. That's why I talked about the placidity of the executives in the 5 southeastern regions. You know what is bedeviled in your region, whether you consider it to be the impute of the federal government, or it is a conspiracy within your people, or you consider it a political strategy to ensure that the APC remains, the only political party that will be viable there. Why are you not calling out all of this insanity?
Unfortunately, leadership in Nigeria now has gotten to an extent where the major political party has turned into a business-making venture. No longer about leadership. That is why most of our leaders, when they get there, they believe that this is a time to enrich themselves and take care of themselves and leave the people to fend for themselves. And as long as this mentality continues, let me tell you, the sad story is that each time there's an election, they know they don't even need your vote.
Yeah.
That's how worse it now gets. Because they don't need your vote, so they are not accountable to you. Because the process that brings them in, it's not through your vote. So they don't answer to you. They only answer to themselves. The political elites have discovered a medium to cut the people off totally. And that is how dangerous our democracy has become. So you don't expect any political officer that, as far as the state house, even the local government, the autonomy that is coming on right now to make them have money, it's just going to make sure that at the grassroots level, we now have a set of another politicians who will continue to enrich themselves and take care of themselves and not the people.
All right, finally, for example, the lawmakers has halted Tinubu's attempt to appoint new resident electoral commissioner. That is a new resident electoral commissioner as a chair. Fubara is still on suspension. Why would you want to put in a new Rivers State commissioner for INEC, like the resident electoral commissioner? I know it's within the purview of the president to make appointments. So is it the local government elections they want to conduct under the sole administration of Igbokwe? Is it constitutionally recognized? I mean, and if that is the case, okay, why not wait for Fubara to resume with the constituted House of Rep members, and then you can now appoint an INEC chair, a resident electoral commissioner chair. So again, the speculation now arose that the president is solely involved in the political hostility in Rivers, and that he's one planning all the machinations and all whatnot that is ongoing.
Is it the president that's appointing or Wiki?
Well, based on the reports now, the Senate had to temporarily halt President Bola Tinubu's nomination of Michael Ekpa. He was the one who wrote to the Senate to actually approve Michael Ekpa.
I think it just shows that the Senate is waiting for them to be settled so that they will pass it, like they passed the state of emergency situation. So maybe some people have not been settled. So you cannot, this thing cannot just pass through without a lot of people being greased. But it's unfortunate. Because at the end of the day, what is happening in Rivers State is state capture ahead of the 2027 elections. So they're trying to make sure that they dot the I's and cross all the T's so that there'll be no loopholes. So even when Fubara comes in, even though he wants to move, everywhere is tied up. So even as far as the local government elections, they want their people to be there. Even as far as if the chief of everybody will have to be under their control. So they're just crossing all the T's and dotting the I's. So don't worry, the National Assembly is still going to pass this man and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, it will be a story where they are doing this, but you can't do anything. If you can't beat them, join them. It's more like a mafioso, which is pretty sad.
All right, Jerry, thank you so much for giving us your insight and actually stipulating eloquently most of the issues raised up on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right. Okay, so onto stories outside the shores of Nigeria. Many Iranians have reacted with fear and dismay at Donald Trump's instruction to immediately evacuate Tehran. The capital's almost 10 million residents have now been left to decide whether to shelter in their homes, bracing themselves for what could come next, or attempt to join the heavy traffic leaving the country's capital. President Trump made his comments just moments before cutting short his trip to the G7 in Canada, leaving many wondering if this could mean a further escalation in the conflict between Israel and Iran was imminent. Many of those deciding to leave Tehran are posting images of their homes online, a poignant trend in Persian language social media for those leaving their city behind. Well, journalists currently are unable to report on Iran due to restrictions by the Iranian government. Well, the Persian and other correspondents with the BBC have received messages from the people affected. They have also conducted interviews and monitored social media to gather people's stories. Some Iranians have already taken the decision to leave well before Israel issued the first evacuation order for parts of Tehran on Monday. Well, as it stands, the journey would typically last an hour and took others more than 5 hours to get to their various destinations. Many more Iranians living in Tehran have decided to leave since Monday, braving traffic jams of up to 14 hours and few queues to flee, unsure if their homes will still be standing when they return. It is expected that even more will attempt to make the arduous journey of Tehran following Trump's comments. And that's a wrap on the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Machku. Good evening. Thank you for listening. Up next is Evening Rush at 7 o'clock. To kindly stay with us.